everyone. Welcome to another Main SBDC webinar. This is part one of a two-part series on social media analytics. So we're going to be going over what analytics are, what vocab you need to understand, why it all matters, and then we're going to be doing some exercises, and that'll be what leads into part two. So definitely try to join us again next week. If for some reason you cannot make it, that's okay. These are recorded and you will receive a follow-up email from me after the presentation, probably tomorrow, probably the day after, but it'll include a link to the recordings and the slides and any other reference material that we mention. We being the Main SBDC, as well as Nicole Lett from Breaking Even Communications, who will be the host of today's webinar. Please use the chat to introduce yourself and let us know where you are or what kind of business you have. If you have some social media pages that you want to share with us, definitely pop the links down there. Also, any questions that you have along the way, feel free to throw in the chat. We'll probably ask you to stay muted for most of it, except I hear that there's some there might be some screen sharing involved. Everyone, this is going to be an interactive program. So thank you for joining us during your lunch. If you need to eat, feel free to. We usually do some breakout rooms, so it might be a little bit new for you, but if you've joined before, you have a little bit more experience with the format that we do in these ongoing series. Like I said, you'll receive that follow-up email from me both weeks. And yeah, Nicole's popped some things in the chat down there, so you should have a little notification. If you click on that, you can introduce yourself. And otherwise, I think I am ready to pass it over to Nicole.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Yeah, a valuable part of this whole thing is being able to connect with other people who are in this workshop and all that. So I'm going to throw up a poll just to get an idea of who's in the room. I would just want to understand sort of the kinds of platforms you find yourself on the most. I have made it multiple choice, so you can pick more than one. I just want to get an idea of kind of if we were to go in depth on some in particular next session, or if I was going to use examples, like what would be good. Okay. I'm just going to leave it up until most of you have answered it. So no need to answer, just kind of gives me an idea of who's in the room. Okay, it's a pretty even spread, but with a lot of people very interested in Facebook and Instagram in particular, which makes sense. So I'm gonna pause in the poll and I will share the results here. So this is the results of where we're at here. Like I said, pretty much everybody really caring about Facebook. Most people also caring about Instagram, with a little smattering of some other ones in between. So I will, yeah, we will totally go over all that stuff as we go along. And as Kelsey said, I made it at the beginning of this meeting so that everybody would be able to share their screen. So if we're in breakout rooms and you have a question that about something on your screen, we'll be able to do stuff like that. So we're gonna try that out and see how it works. So, if you haven't been to, I guess, a workshop that I'm typically at, I like to give people time to work on things. So like present something and then give you time. And I basically put you in your own breakout room, which seems weird, but it allows you to kind of take the time to dive in. And also you can like ask for help while you're in there. And I can kind of go and sort of get you unstuck on an individual issue. Or if you have a question about your particular account that only applies to you, that you don't want to ask in front of everyone, it gives us a good time to do that as well. So if you're the kind of person who, this is a workshop where we'll be doing things. So if you're, I don't know, listening to this while you're doing something else, in about 15 minutes, there'll be a breakout room, and about 45 minutes in, there'll be a breakout room. So just to mentally prepare you for that. So, so the reason I wanted to do this in 2 sessions, because honestly, I could have probably blown through everything in 1 session, is that I really want to give us time to do an experiment and then see how it goes. So at the end of this, we're going to like each conduct our own experiment. It's not going to be like in physics class where we all did the same experiment and all had to write the same lab report. It's going to be an experiment on your particular thing. So it's going to be different for everybody, and we're going to do it, and then we're going to come back and report on it. It's not a lot of homework. one experiment literally is like 5 minutes, and it's just to try something and to come back. And the idea is if there's a lot of us on this webinar and we all try a bunch of different things and can share our results, like we can probably learn from each other, in addition to also making this a little bit more of an interesting workshop. So today, week one, we're going to be establishing baseline data for ourselves. The main three things, and if you look across all social media platforms, they all use these same three words: followers, engagement, and reach. And so we're going to talk about those things and how they're kind of related to each other. And we're going to also establish your baseline data, because let's face it, like, you sometimes maybe are doing things and things are going well, but if you compare yourself to, you know, a celebrity or somebody else, it doesn't seem like it, when really you are making progress. So establishing baseline data for where your social media is at right now is really great, because then when we try things, we can see if they're working or not. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the tools that each platform has. Each platform does have its own analytics for free right there. Next week, we'll talk about paid tools. You'll see probably toward the end of this workshop kind of why somebody would pay for them. And we're going to pick a little experiment to run. So that's what this week is going to be about. And the main thing, and I'm going to just, this is a very short step on soapbox for like 2 minutes, is just to say this fundamental thing, which is that social media is a conversation. I get that we talk about it being a platform and this idea that we're standing there and we're talking. But the thing is, we have to listen back. And if you're not going to participate, you're probably going to have limited success on whatever platform that you're on. So, you know, if you don't want to, if the idea of you being on Instagram drives you crazy, you can not be on Instagram. It's really fine. Or you can join there's lots of different social media platforms out there. But what participating can look like is it's leaving comments on other people's stuff. It's following other people. It's seeing, you know, in your feed, as you look through anything, if you look through Pinterest, if you look through Facebook, you have an idea of what people are talking about there. And, you know, it's participating in those conversations that are happening, in addition to maybe starting new conversations. You know, it's not constantly selling yourself. I'm on Reddit a little bit, and I'm in this forum, and there's this guy who every time someone asks a problem about this thing, he always is like, well, I sell these in my Etsy shop, and he links his Etsy shop. And this guy everybody is annoyed by him. And there's nothing wrong with saying that you sell something. And there is something wrong with if that's the only way you're participating. You know, and the idea with social media is connecting people, you know, so connecting them with other people, with resources, whatever. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to be on social media, you got to be on it a little bit. Yes, you can use scheduling software to get messages out and everything. I'm all about that, but you do have to spend some time. Okay. Platform dismounted. Now, you're going to see this slide and you're going to panic for a second, okay? Don't panic. The reality is that Facebook has been trying to get us all as business people, moved over to their Facebook business suite for probably like a year now. And what they've done is they've moved analytics underneath this Facebook business suite thing. So the SBDC and I have done some programming about setting up Google Business Suite. Maybe Kelsey, I'm not sure where those videos exist somewhere that can be accessed by other people, but we've done a detailed how to set that all up. But honestly, there's lots of other really great resources out there about how to do that. Essentially, it's moving it under a Facebook Business Suite account. So establishing your baseline data is kind of knowing where this data is kept. So on Facebook and Instagram, it is now under Facebook Business Suite. Instagram has insights too within the app, but I like to access things from the computer. I don't know about you. Something about looking at something on a phone all the time, it just drives me nuts. You know, YouTube has analytics in the channel dashboard when you're logged in. So some of these things have nice, neat little links, which is why I put them in. And some of them, it's like you have to click on, and then it gives you this super long link that's related to your particular thing, which is why I didn't put them in there and just instead referenced where they generally were. And we have other social media platforms. To me, anything where you can, you know, where content is shared and people connect around it, to me is a social network. So like, to me, Spotify is a social network. I can make playlists, I can upload music, I can follow other people, you know, other people's playlists, that kind of thing. So, you know, to me, social media is a bigger group than the stuff we have listed here. And if you participate in those platforms, you know, it's important to track what you're doing there. But typically across all of these accounts, you have to either be a business or a creator to be able to get these analytics. So for example, as Nicole on Facebook, I'd post an update and I have no idea who sees that update. I have no idea how many people see it or whatever. I can see obviously if people leave comments or something, but I have no idea when I post something, how many people see it. Whereas on my business page, if I post something to it, I can tell. So, so business accounts. And then, increasingly we see on social media, there's this creator status. And the idea of the creator status is if you don't have, I don't know, a quilt store or a real estate agency, maybe your whole job is creating content. So let's say that I was, I don't know, Nicole the teacher on TikTok, and I posted videos about how I set up my classroom and assignments I gave and stuff like that. And how I get paid is that TikTok monetizes my content and that brands can reach out to me and have me, make a video, a paid basically advertisement for them on my platform. So there are people who make a living as a creator as well. So business and creator accounts both have analytics. And even you can designate your account on LinkedIn to be a creator. I'm just seeing this term used a lot more on different kinds of websites. So typically business and creator accounts have analytics. And also these platforms typically have analytics for a limited period of time. They used to keep the data indefinitely, but that would be much too easy for us. So they typically have it between 30 and 90 days, depending on what the platform is. And sometimes it's harder to go back further than that. They either have very limited data or it's not super well archived. So if you're the kind of person who wants to follow up with how you're doing over time, you have to kind of think of a way you want to do that. Maybe that's outside of that particular dashboard, which we'll get into. So if you ever wonder, how are other people doing? The good news is you can spy on other people. So that's fun. This is Social Blade. These two screenshots are from Social Blade. And there's different ones. Iconosquare, which is on the screen, that's just, I think that's just for Instagram. I'm like 90% sure that's true. But there are all these different websites that allow you to look at a particular account and give you an idea of like how many followers they have, how much engagement they have, that kind of thing. I think a lot of it is that if you were a business and like, let's say you wanted to hire me to do a sponsored post as Nicole, the teacher, as my creator, you're a company and you want to hire me, you have to take my word for it on the data. Okay, but really you don't, because you can use something like this, right? So I like to use this mainly to see kind of how I'm doing relative to other people, which is fine. But also sometimes this gives you an idea of kind of where you're at where am I at related to Instagram. Now, Social Blade, for example, for TikTok, you have to have above 25,000 followers. So you can't look me up on Social Blade on TikTok. But apparently my very lowly Instagram following of 600-ish or 700-ish people is tracked on Social Blade. So these different ones have kind of sometimes different requirements with, how many followers you need to have or whatever. But we can see things, like I said, like, engagement rate, average likes, average comments, how many new followers do I get in a 30-day time period? So that's what that, first one is. So followers in the last 30 days, 13, following new in the last 30 days, 21. So that's what some of these, anyway, point being is that you can see how you're related to maybe another person, maybe someone more famous than you, or somebody who's like in a similar vertical as you, but maybe not necessarily a competitor. You can also use it to compare your stats to each other. So I've been running this experiment for my own YouTube channel. And so I don't like Instagram. Don't like it. But for the last 30 days, I'm going to make myself like, I do it for my clients and stuff, but I don't spend a lot of time on it myself. So what I decided to do was I'm going to post 3 to 4 times a week, and I'm going to leave 10 comments a day on different things 5 days a week. And I'm going to do it for a month and see how it goes. So the one all the way on the left is where I started. And this is 3 weeks in. I just took this screenshot today on the right. And as you see, my engagement rate went from 0.37% to 0.92%. So I'm getting more engagement. I'm getting more followers. We definitely see a 188% increase in followers in the last 3 weeks. So point being is, like, I think when you put effort into something, you usually get something back. And if you forget to do something, you can use these tools sometimes to go back in time and kind of see where you're at. So what I thought we would do, not that I'm, like I said, a huge like person, I like to run my own race, stay in my own lane kind of thing, but sometimes it's nice to look at some larger creators who are doing something similar to you. So yeah, maybe there's not another, you know, I don't know, gold jewelry maker in Falmouth or something, but maybe there's a really awesome jewelry maker who has like 2 million Instagram followers that you follow, that kind of thing. So what I want you to do is, and I keep using Instagram as an example because it's something I've been concentrating on, but you can look up this data for most of your competitors and on whatever social platform that you admire them on. So maybe there's a YouTube channel that you watch a lot of and you're like, oh, I really love this YouTube channel. What are they what are they doing that's maybe different than what I'm doing, right? And sometimes that just involves looking at their data. Now, obviously, like I said, you can go to their individual videos and you can see how many views they get, but these platforms kind of pull together like the kinds of comments they're getting, how many shares they're getting, that kind of thing. And what I want you to do is, like I said, look at their stuff, you know, look at their data, whether it's on Social Blade or any one of these other ones. And I'll pop them in the chat here, or Kelsey can pop them in the chat, the names of these other accounts. It's okay if not, I can do it in a second. But so like, look at what they're, you know, how often do they upload content? Like how much content do they post a week? You know, what kinds of subject matter do they seem to be discussing? Do they use any hashtags when they post stuff, or, you know, not really? Are they tagging other people in their content? How often do they do that? Or what interesting ways do they do that? So just act like you're, and it's nice because you're completely detached from this person, right? So what I want to do is just kind of look at what other people are doing in your space and just take a look, like I said, on one of these. Like I said, you know, all of these are similar. Most of these you can look at without making an account for the most part too. So like, don't feel like I'm telling you to make an account on any one of these sites, but yeah, just kind of like look at what someone you admire is doing and see kind of what they're doing on social media and how that might be different from what you're generally doing. Is there any general questions about the, okay, assignment's the wrong word, but you know what I mean? All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put you in your own breakout room for 10-ish minutes. So you're gonna be by yourself. You can ask for help or come back to the main room at any point. So don't feel like I'm like locking you in a padded cell all by yourself. And yeah, and just take a look at what your people you admire might be up to on social media and see if you can draw some parallels for, you know, what might be making them successful. So I'm going to open the rooms now and I'll see you in 10 minutes. All right. So I don't know if anybody does anyone have any interesting things that they sort of learned as they were looking around at social stats for other people that aren't them? Feel free to, you can use the hand raise button, which is in the reactions section. So here's me doing the, oh, Kelsey. Yes, I would love to hear from you.
I was just trying to show people how to raise their hand, but
I thought you had something. You look at your social stuff, right?
I'm trying to plug it in. It's saying, it's like not showing me anyone else, like it's saying help us authenticate.
Oh yeah.
Did anybody else encounter this?
I think, yeah, I think what it is when you have a small account, like it has you authenticate and pull in your own data. I think when you look at larger accounts, it'll just show them. Did anyone else find anything interesting? Was this a worthwhile exercise? It's okay if it wasn't. It's the first time I've ever taught this class, full disclosure, so I'm just trying stuff. Oh yeah. Lynn, go ahead. Oh, you're muted still.
I found a paywall immediately because I wanted to kind of like compare to a bunch of people. And they're like, oh no, I gotta upgrade. And I'm trying to find the best analytic tool for our social media. Mm-hmm. So at some point I am gonna have to upgrade. I just want to kind of understand what they offer. I did find, at least for Facebook, the information is similar to what you can see on Facebook and compare yourself to others. So it wasn't like a revelation, but I certainly like the format a lot better.
Yeah, I could see that. And we'll talk about paid tools next week. Like I said, you know, in general, I try to give people free and or very inexpensive tools. You know, and sometimes it is worth paying. So, you know, we'll totally talk about kind of the paid dashboard format and how pretty it can look compared to the default ones that they give us. But yeah, thanks for sharing. Did anyone, yeah, I'm sorry that you got the authentication issue. It had me authenticate when I was pulling in my own data, but I guess I didn't realize it, like I could look at celebrities' data like all day long and it wouldn't make me authenticate, but it could. Now I'm just wondering if I'm insane or not. So it's okay. We're gonna just move on with the show. And I get that we sort of did
one question just
sure,
real fast before we go on.
Yeah.
Jill is asking, does the engagement rate mean just how many people engage with like her own posts, or does it include her engagement with others? And I feel like it's just people's engagement with your own posts, right?
Yes, it's people's engagement with your own posts. I'm going to go into these things into detail right now. So I get that you sort of like were looking at other people's stuff and, you know, it was maybe using some words that aren't quite familiar, but now you have like, you kind of know what these things can look like a little bit. Let's talk about followers, reach, and engagement. So followers answers the question, who is regularly seeing my updates, or who has opted to regularly see my updates, I guess more accurately. And this is an example from Pinterest. So if you look in the upper right corner, you see that I have 1,200 followers on Pinterest. But if we look at in my engaged audience is 6,470 people. So my followers, so 1,200 people have seen me on Pinterest and thought, this sounds interesting. And they clicked that follow button, or that, you know, yeah, it's typically the follow button. On Facebook, it has a like button, but same idea. Now, here's the thing, and I put a little asterisk here for a reason, which is that they might not see all of your updates. So these 1,200 people on Pinterest do not see everything that I post, because these websites, a large part of them making money is you buying advertising, right? So what it's going to do is show your stuff sometimes. So even though you follow someone, it doesn't mean that you see everything that they ever post, right? I'm sure that you follow companies on Facebook or Instagram and you don't see every single one of their updates when you scroll through, right? Partially it might be because you follow a lot of people and you would never be able to see all the updates. But what the algorithm or the feed tries to do is show you the things it thinks you might be the most interested in. So just because someone's following your company doesn't mean they're seeing all the stuff that you're posting. And just because someone isn't following your company doesn't mean they're not going to see it. As you see with this audience, I have almost 6,500 people who see my stuff, even though I only have 1,200 people following me. So followers are people who have clicked that follower that like, or have somewhat like opted into seeing things from you on a somewhat regular basis. They want to keep in touch, right? So this is really generic advice because, well, you'll see in a second, you know. So how can you increase your followers? Be responsive to the followers you do have. Someone leaves a comment, respond to it. You know, someone writes you a message, respond to it, that kind of thing. You know, finding and following new people, right? Now, the thing is, in Twitter in particular is the one I'm thinking of. I can only directly message people if I'm following them and they're following me. So for example, I follow Oprah, but Oprah doesn't follow me, so I can't send her a message. So, but if I know that there's a company that uses Twitter for customer service, I'm going to follow that company because I know they'll be able to message me that way. Otherwise, they can't. You can buy ads. Of course you can, right? Like that's what they want you to do. Promoting your social accounts elsewhere. So for example, like if I follow you on Facebook, I might not know that you have a TikTok account or an Instagram account. So you might mention like, oh, hey, we, share, tips on how to grow vegetables on our Instagram page. And I might say, oh, I'm on Instagram. Like I'll go follow them there. A lot of times, in particular with small businesses, I don't assume that most small businesses have much of a social media. So if I see that they're talking about one that they have, I assume that they're regularly updating it and feel confident enough to say that it exists. So telling people that you've said, just because I'm on Facebook doesn't mean I necessarily only want to follow you on Facebook. I might follow you on Instagram and other places as well. Paying attention to trends and reacting to them. So if you're scrolling through your social media feed and you see that everyone's talking about, I don't know, that baked feta recipe or something that everyone was making like 2.5 months ago, which is why you couldn't buy feta. You could add your take on it or whatever. But point being is you see the conversation and you join a conversation that's kind of going on. Being active on the platform helps, showing that your account, wasn't last updated 4 years ago. Always a good sign. Using hashtags and keywords that people might be searching for. We'll talk about hashtags if you want a little bit. Video. So, okay, I get it. Like they're cramming video down our throats, right? Like you don't necessarily feel like as a small business owner, you need to have time, you have time to make 15-second videos, like Instagram Reels or TikToks or whatever, but all these platforms are optimizing video content. So if you make a video, it's much more likely to be seen. Don't be negative. Makes sense, right? Nobody wants to follow that person. And unless they're insane and unhinged, like that Kitchen Nightmares lady, that there was this Kitchen Nightmares episode that was insane. And their social media was following it was gold, but you didn't want to buy from them. You just wanted to, eat popcorn and watch the dumpster fire. And then posting multiple times a day. Posting more, people engage more. So now what you're going to see is my little generic tips aren't going to change much, but you'll see in a second why. So reach answers the question, who is seeing my stuff? For example, a particular post or a particular update, right? So this is my YouTube reach. And so I was telling Kelsey about this. I've been stuck at 72 YouTube subscribers for like months. I don't know why. I feel like I'm a fun video person. Particular short videos, I'm fun, but this is my reach. So I have 78 subscribers, but as you see, I got 2,400 impressions, right? So just because people aren't subscribed does not mean they're not seeing my videos. So I can see not only the impressions I get based on the day of the week, but I can see things like, where are these people from? How did they get to me? That kind of thing. How was I reaching people, if that makes sense? So, reach answers the question, who's seeing stuff. And here's the thing, you might go viral for something and that will increase your reach, but it doesn't necessarily translate into followers. And I will use, again, myself as an example. So about 3 months ago, I went viral on TikTok. So this is my TikTok page. And if you look in the lower right-hand corner, that video got almost 82,000 views. Please note my 72 YouTube subscribers, 14 years of creating video content. And of course, I'm cooking salmon in my kitchen and I am not wearing makeup and I post this video and I go to bed and I wake up and it has 81,000 views. That's fun. And then, a few video and look, so the video, so the way social media feeds work, right, is like newest is on top and the oldest goes lower, right? So the bottom right is the oldest one. So then, the bottom right, yeah. The bottom middle is the second oldest, and then the left, right? So I think you see what I'm saying here. So the video I posted immediately after it got less than 10,000 views. So that's the algorithm, right? So the algorithm gave me a ton of views on the first video, and it's like, well, Nicole, we're not giving these away, these views. So I could have done a Steven Spielberg, video right there, and it was not going to give you the same views, because the algorithm wants to show different content, right? It doesn't keep showing me to everybody, right? And then a day later, I'm in my office and I got the middle section, the middle one, I got 141,000 views on this video, okay? Now, like I said, did I think 100 and whatever thousand people would ever see anything I ever did in the whole thing of my life? I didn't think so. But of all of this traffic and interest, I got 4,000 subscribers. So 100,000 people, 4,000 of them were like, you know what? I want to stay and stick around and see what else this person has to say. So, and I've seen that with other people too. One of my friends, like, I forget, there was some year a few years ago where we got a lot of snowstorms. I can't remember what year it was, but he threw up a graphic of someone plowing and wrote, "Thank you," and shared it on social media. and it got like 100,000 like views, and they got like 20,000 shares and everything. And the actual business page he put it on, I think, got 200 likes or something. So viral is great, but you can't really plan for it. And it's not necessarily going to translate into people that'll follow you forever. So, and you'll get some fun troll comments. So that's always nice. So increasing the reach, very similar advice. I will say that, you know, if you want to reach more people, so for example, when I'm doing a workshop, I'll sometimes post it, if it's a free workshop in particular, I'll post it to some, you know, communities on the platform that I'm on. So, you know, LinkedIn has LinkedIn groups, Facebook has groups, all these social media platforms, well, not all of them, but most of them have some kind of group functionality. And so what I'll do is I'll take a piece of information and I'll cross post it some other places. I don't do that with everything, but I do that with, like I said, if I'm doing a free workshop or if I have something of particular interest. And the other thing you can do is you can ask people to share. You can say, hey, this is really important. I'd really appreciate it if you shared it. Now, you can't say this for every piece of content, because then you're that person in the office that flags every email as urgent. We all know those people, right? I had this one person I worked with. She flagged everything as urgent. And so the first 3 times I like opened her emails very quickly. And then afterward I realized, oh, she thinks everything is urgent. So then I didn't. So what I like to use that very sparingly. So if I have something that I think is particularly important, I'll ask people, hey, please share this. But I don't ask for it every time. And the third thing is engagement. And engagement is, how did people interact with your update or your post, right? So different levels of engagement, right? So think about the amount of effort each one of these take. Your friend posts your wedding picture. Like, just a click, right? Maybe if you picked a different reaction on Facebook than like, maybe you picked the heart, you know, maybe you moved your finger like a centimeter in one direction to pick the heart. That's relatively low effort, right? A comment is a little bit more effort, right? Because you've like clicked on the thing and you've thought of something to say. Saving it to me is the next level, because that's like, I like this enough that I'm going to reference it later. I'm going to put this in a little folder, something like that. A lot of these have, you know, Instagram and Facebook both have save functionalities. And I know Facebook lets you put them in a category. I just saved them on Instagram. I just saved them. I don't think you can put them in categories, but and then to me, the highest level of is sharing it. I like this so much that I want to put this in front of everybody that might be following me. I want everyone else to see this too. And I included in here something specific to video, because like I said, all these platforms want us to care about video now. You know, how many views your video got and the duration of the, you know, how long people watched for. You know, if it's a 3-minute video, did they watch the average of 20 seconds and click off? Did most people make it all the way through? That kind of thing. And the more engaging something is, so the more people that interact with it, the more that the algorithm says, oh, this seems relevant, and shows it to more people. So back to my little video thing here, was based on how people were reacting initially, the TikTok algorithm was like, oh, this seems interesting because people are liking and commenting on it. So we're going to show it to more people. At this point, I had 54 subscribers on TikTok. Okay. I had 54 people who followed me when I posted that video. So that's what social, you know, that's how the part of how the algorithm works, is if something is more, you know, if people are interacting with it, it assumes it's interesting. And so it shares it to more people. So all these things kind of tie together, right? And I said the increased engagement, a couple I added here are being controversial. So please note that 2 things above I say don't be negative. So to me, being controversial used to feel like being negative, but I think it just means like you might have a hot take. So let me give you an example. I'm a social media person, and I might tell you, well, I think Gary Vee is a huge social media guy, right? He's like one of the top in the industry. Well, I think Gary Vee has some good points and some good products. I think in general, he's problematic because he promotes this hustle culture, which I don't think is healthy. And honestly, it's only made possible because he has a wife who like stays home and probably takes care of everything at home. And number 2, because the amount of content he wants people to produce and react to is just not sustainable for the average small business owner. So that's what we call a hot take, right? And if I posted this little video somewhere, right, I would probably get a lot of comments. I would either get people agreeing with me or massively disagreeing with me. Now, did I say anything bad about Gary Vee as a person? Am I acknowledging that his, that I have a couple of his books? Absolutely, But what I'm saying is I have a couple of specific points to make about it. That might make it a hot take, if that makes sense. So, so not being afraid to like say something that says something, I think could be a good way to get engagement. And, being well timed will also increase engagement. So I saw that video that I reacted to. I saw it about 20 minutes after it was posted, and it just hit me. And I remember my boyfriend called and I was like, I can't talk right now. I have to react to this video on the internet. I'll call you back. So I recorded my little 60-second thing, posted it, and went to bed. Well, called him back and then went to bed. And woke up the next morning. I think it was at 45,000 in the morning. I just remember I woke up and there was all these notifications on my phone, and I'd never gone viral before, so I wasn't expecting it. But point being, the only reason I think that video did well, it's not like I said anything super different than what a lot of other people would say. I just said it at the right time. I said it when it was first being posted and people were starting to talk about it. So as you see, all of these things feed into each other, right? Like if you reach more people, some of those people are going to follow you back. If your followers react to stuff, if they like and share and whatever, it's going to reach more people. So getting more of one of these things usually gets you more of the other things because they're all kind of related to each other. You can smile and nod, or you can feel free, if you've got your video off and good for you, you can turn on a reaction. I'm just curious if this, like, if you kind of see where I'm going with this. And okay. All right, awesome. It's so weird, like online teaching is still so weird to me, but we're getting there. Okay, so you might ask yourself, okay, Nicole, I get it. I get what these words mean in a general way. But if I'm doing stuff on any social media, if I'm doing stuff on Facebook, if I'm posting more often, or if I'm like using hashtags and stuff, how do I know it's working, right? And so we should see theoretically an increase in one or several of these things. First of all, right, we should see an increase in either followers, reach, or engagement, right? Because we're either posting more often, or we're posting more relevant things, or we're, creating content people appreciate. We should see an increase in website traffic to our websites, right? Because people are like, who is this person or whatever? And you'll notice that every social media platform lets you have a link, right, back to your website. So we should see, if someone is following us, they might say, oh, this is interesting. Click and head over to your website. I have noticed when I do more social media stuff with people that they get an increased number of reviews, especially if we talk about reviews. If we say, hey, thanks, Kelsey, for leaving us a review. We love being your co-working space while you're here in Bar Harbor. Click here to see more of our reviews on Google. I notice that when we talk about reviews, we get more reviews. It increases the amount of incoming messages you're getting. So maybe people message you on social media, maybe people text you, maybe people are using your website contact form. An increase in sales, whether that's online or in real life or both. In general increase in offline activity. And I'm saying things like, let's say that every year you do a workshop in the fall and you typically get, 100 people who register. And then this fall you're doing it, you're adding an online component, or so you're promoting it, and you notice that 200 people have, so that's something that's, not necessarily online, but there are certain things that you'll notice offline if you do stuff online well. And an increase in email and or text message subscribers, depending on what kind of list you have. Probably most people in this have an email list. But if you're like a restaurant or something, texting list might be good for you too, because it's the kind of thing that people like. So what we're going to do for this next work period is we're going to help you establish a baseline of where you're at right now. And so step one is thinking, how often am I going to look at this data? I think once a month is like fine, or once every 3 months is fine. But I think more than once a month looking at your data is insane. I'll be honest with you. Because if you think about it, even if you're trending upward, like you're going to have periods of time where you go down a little bit. It's not a straight line up, right? You might like lose a couple, gain a bunch, lose a couple. And if you're looking at it day to day, you're going to get lost in those changes that are not indicative of a trend. So, I would say either monthly or quarterly, I think are good when you're like, So every 3 months or every 1 month, I'm going to look at my data. So let's say you decide, okay, I'm going to do this every 3 months. I'm going to do this quarterly. So the second step is to say, let's establish data for the last 3 months. So this way, when you look at it 3 months from now, you have some historical data. And so what we're going to do is basically come up with a sheet of paper that has all of this stuff on it. Now, this is going to be, okay, painful is not the right word. It's going to be a little tedious to pull this together. And when we see the paid tools next week, and you'll see that all pulled in like this, you're going to say, oh, wow, I didn't have to do any of that. Like, I can see why someone would pay for that. But just because we want to know what we're paying for, we want to know what we're keeping track of, I just want us to make a document with this stuff in it. And I thought the best thing to do, and maybe Kelsey can drop this link in here. I made it visible whether when you have a, it's okay, this is not beautiful, okay? Just telling you, I made a super generic, like, I made a generic thing because I use reporting software, and I get that most people on this call, like, that doesn't make sense right now, and that's totally fine. It may not ever make sense, and that's really cool, but I just wanted to make something sort of generic that you could look at. So this is generic social media report. So this is my fake company I always use. How do you like them apples orchard? Doesn't actually exist. So I pretend, you know, I did pretend this was a year-long period, but you get the idea. So what we're going to do, obviously, you're not doing this for a period of comparison because we're establishing data. So like if you're on Twitter, go on Twitter, write the date, which is, what day is it? August 23rd, and write how many followers you have on Twitter. Right? Facebook, how many page likes do you have? And the other thing too that I sometimes, you know, that you can do if you want is you can take screenshots of the analytics that you have. So maybe, you know, so I just grabbed this is the post reach one that I grabbed and the recommendations one that I grabbed. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to go, and as long as you can recreate the screenshot every month, you'll be able to compare them, if that makes sense. So, you know, make sure you get the scale in here, you know, the axis. So I see here, for example, if I was going the average post reach over this time period, it looks like it was around 1,000, right? Like that's pretty fair. The 1,000 is that second line from the bottom. That's pretty. So I could look at the next time period and see if that line seems to go up. I'm going to do my Pinterest followers. I'm going to maybe do Pinterest impressions and total audience. Like, so this is an analytics overview for a period of time. I just grabbed a bunch of screenshots and put them together, but you see what I mean, right? I'm dividing these up into different sections, and I'm just, okay, August 23rd, 2021. This is where I'm at with my social stuff, with my website and things like that. So I'm going to, so let's, okay. So we have, you know, followers, reach, engagement on your social platforms, right? Your general website traffic that you just generally get, might be Google Analytics, or if you use like Wix or Squarespace or something, they have some kind of generic traffic report when you first log in. You know, you can do the number of reviews on review websites if you plan on, you know, if you're trying to get more reviews, or if that's something you want to track. You know, you might look and say, okay, I have 150 TripAdvisor reviews and we're rated the #2 donut shop in, you know, in Calais, you know, for right now. A little screenshot of where we're at. The average number of messages you get from your website contact form and social media over this period of time. Again, we're looking at 3 months worth of data if we can get it. You know, your average business sales during this period, total sales, order value, that kind of thing. In person and online. If you're just online, obviously, that's totally fine. Yeah, and your number of email subscribers. So just having that all together for the first time probably ever on a few sheets of paper, I think will give you a baseline of where you're at with your stuff online. And then as we run, like I said, our experiment next week, we're not going to necessarily pull the data next week, but you'll see what I mean. When you pull your data the next time, you'll see kind of what's up with that. I see that there might be some questions, but let me see what those might be.
We were talking about Facebook groups.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And whether that
has data.
Well, I guess Ellen was asking, should we create our own groups in addition to participating on community groups? And Jill was very helpful.
Awesome.
She kind of answered my question before I got a chance to, but
Awesome. Cool.
yes. And it's a lot of work to run your own Facebook group. So you need someone dedicated to that position technically. And if that is not something you want to spend all of your time on, it's like the amount of time you would have to spend administrating the group, you could almost spend engaging on your regular platform and you would get a better return on your investment kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, would you rather stop by the party or do you want to keep throwing the party? And it's a lot more work to throw the party. Yeah, you get more benefit, but it's more work. So yeah, it's definitely like I'm underlining what you guys are saying, which is it just kind of depends. I would see if you can keep up with what you have going before you add something new, but that's just my my idea. So the document is in the chat, and like I said, and what we can do is, like I said, just like I said, make a document and pull together the information that you might have. And I get that some of you in the end, you might say, okay, I'm willing to pay, but at the very least, you'll get an idea of where you're at right now and decide whether you want to do like a month or quarterly. I would say if you want to do it yearly, that's fine, depending on how hands-on you are. But I think monthly or quarterly, this way, if you change something, you'll be able to see if it's working or not, you know, and just see if you can pull all of that stuff into one dashboard. And so we're going to have actually, I stopped sharing too early because there we go. Because I'm apparently not thinking. So this is the assignment. So we're going to make a report for you. Well, we are. Okay, sorry. I'm not going to take credit. You're going to do it, but I'm going to help you as much as I can. You know, make a section for each platform and take screenshots of data that you don't feel like, because especially with Facebook, I find with like certain things, it's like, the idea of pulling this into a spreadsheet and then trying to format it makes me want to gouge my eyes out. Really what we want to do is just have a visual representation of how things are going during the time period. And, you know, if you do find yourself sending traffic to other places regularly, I use the example of TripAdvisor, but just some website that you have absolutely no control over. Sometimes I like to make a tracking link and keep sharing that on social media. That way I can see like, okay, this is how much traffic we sent for people to look at your, you know, TripAdvisor or something. Or this is how many people let's say you were published, I don't know, I'm trying to think. Let's say Maine Magazine published a whole feature about you or something. And you were like, you wanted people to see it and you wanted to know how many people went to go see it and you have no control over Maine Magazine. You can make a tracking link with bit.ly.com will let you have a free account. And you can make a tracking link and you can see the tracking data. You can see how many people click on it over time, which can be helpful if you have no control over the website that you're sending people to. I hope that makes sense. But it's going to be a pretty long work period here because it's going to be a fair bit of work. It could even be a lot of you like being like, oh, what's that login? Or, you know, and like I said, please feel free to ask for help. I'm happy to help you pull this together. And, you know, and I made it, like I said, so we could all share screens this time so that if I go in a room, we can look at your thing together and say, okay, this is the data I would care about, and help you pull that in. So I hope that that makes sense. This is going to be a document you're going to work from. And yeah, so you're going to be in breakout rooms. Please don't be afraid to ask for help. All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate me? Just kidding. Welcome back. Does anybody want to share anything that they found as they're pulling their data together? Feel free to use the hand raise or actually physically raise your hand, whichever you prefer. I just was curious if as you were looking at your own data, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh yeah, Ellen, feel free, unmute and share.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
So I pulled together the Facebook likes and followers separately. And then also I couldn't find the engagement, but I got the reach for the month. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. And then also on Instagram, I got the followers of who I follow and then the followers that that we have. And I also tracked the posts that we have to date, but I don't, and I can see the insights, the analytics for each post, but I don't know how to track the analytics for the whole channel.
I think what you could do is pick like the top 5, like most whatever of that time period.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a good line to draw, or top 10, whichever you felt like gave you more information. I think that's what I would do.
Okay.
Because yeah, the engagement is like, it kind of gives it to you for each thing separately. And I guess what you could do is, I think you can export it, like I said, as like CSV data and then pull it into a spreadsheet, but like who wants to do that? I would just pick the top 10. And you can, in those columns, you can sort them. You can sort them by different, hold on, I'm pulling up an example so that I can, because I understand that me saying this verbally is not necessarily the most helpful. And while I pull that up, Lynn, why don't you share what you found?
Well, actually, I had a question about recommendations that you showed on your page. I don't see that anywhere in my business suite. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm a community service page as opposed to, you know, like a retailer or something like that.
Okay. Well, if you want, by the way, if anybody has any specific questions, I'm happy to stick around a little bit after, once the thing is done, and you can share your screen and we can kind of look at stuff together.
Okay.
If you want, like, I'm happy to do that with anybody who comes to these things. And sometimes that's like the most helpful. But so do you see how in this slide here, I have likes and reactions is in bold? It's because I'm sorting by that particular column. And see, each one of these columns has little tiny arrows up and down. So you can sort by that column. So you don't have to just, doesn't have to be the latest whatever, but maybe what I would do to answer Ellen's question, maybe what I would do every month is I would just screenshot the top 10 with the most likes and reactions. And I would sort it by, these are the top likes and reactions I've had during, as you see in the upper right corner, it's the last 28 days. It's an odd amount of time, but yes, that's the amount of time I was looking at when I did this. But yeah, I think that's what I would do. And that way you could kind of see some maybe patterns in the kind of content it was. Now, obviously, maybe if I was screenshotting it, I wouldn't necessarily get this. Well, maybe I would, because then some of my other ones might have shares and link clicks and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's what I would do.
Thank you.
No problem.
The other thing I wanted to say is I've been for a year following 3 other extensions. I work for the cooperative extension, and I've been following 3 other extensions similar in my numbers to me. And I am totally stumped by one of them because their engagement is ridiculous. And I don't understand how they're doing it. And I know them, and I've kind of said to them, what are you guys doing? And they're like, just what we've always been doing. But I mean, I could share it.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, do it if you want. This might be interesting for other people too.
Oh, I can't do it while you're sharing.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing because I'm just literally have a thing on my screen that says thoughts. Let me pause.
So, wait, that's yours. So this is, can you all see that where it says University of Illinois, University of Maine, UNH. So UNH, we post similar number of times a week. Our numbers of likes, page likes and followers are very similar. And yet their engagement is ridiculous. So, you know, and here I am comparing myself to Illinois. They've got twice the followers, like 12 times the population of the state. So that's totally understandable. But I can, you know, go neck and neck with them on engagement week in and week out. So that was what I noticed. I mean, I'm kind of looking to see what can I learn from them.
Is this organic engagement or just total engagement? And by organic, I mean unpaid.
This is all organic. We got no budget.
No. I mean, the one with a lot of engagement. I'm just wondering.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I bet you they're taking out ads.
Okay.
You can look up, there's hold on, there's a Facebook ads catalog. It's mostly for like, they had this for political organizations and stuff, but you can reverse search who's taking out Facebook ads and see what the ads look like. Search. Hold on. I'm just seeing if I can find the link really quick. You can actually like, and it's kind of fun. Like, so if you're like designing Facebook, it's called an ad there, the Facebook ads library. That's what it is. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can find them in the Facebook ads library and see if they're.
I can stop sharing too. So
No, that's fine. I'm still pulling it up anyway. But so just sometimes when you're looking at engagement, it's showing total engagement, which might include some paid stuff. So obviously, if your budget is, you know, as little as possible, and they've got a budget. So wait, so what was it? The university?
The UNH extension.
I don't know if this is them, but all right. So so what I did here is this is called the Facebook ads library. You can search for it within Google. And I just typed in, when I got to this, I clicked all ads and then I typed in UNH extension. So it looks like they're running 7 ads right now.
Oh, there you go.
Is this them? Is this the right logo?
Oh yeah, this is definitely them.
Yep. So you can look this up for any like group that's running ads. So yeah, that's fun. So in other words, don't feel bad. They're running ads.
Well, no, I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
I've been asked to run some ads for one of the departments and I wasn't sure if it made sense, but I'm beginning to think it might.
Yeah, it can. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the person who thinks of that necessarily as the first thing, but I think especially if you're doing like the right things or whatever, and you need a little extra oomph and you have a clear idea for it, and a clear audience, I think ads can definitely be a tool in the toolbox for sure. So yeah, so when you're seeing someone's engagement, it seems higher than yours, they might be paying for that. So does anybody else want to share anything, by the way? Any of their findings? Feel free to raise your hand if you want. Oh yeah, Jill was saying you can get 30-day stats on reach easily from the mobile Instagram app. Annoying, and then record on desktop, but way easier to navigate. I agree, Jill. I hate Instagram stats on like a desktop. I almost like using a standalone Instagram stats thing to do stuff, because yeah, it's annoying to just use their default one on a desktop. It's like very painful. So good tip. All right. So what was the point of all that besides making you dislike me as a presenter? Well, I promise the next week will be less painful in that way, but basically now we have our baseline data, right? And even if you're still working on it, if you just kind of stick a little bit after and just finish it, you're never going to ever feel like doing this, full disclosure. But the good news is 3 months from now, you're just going to be going and getting the updated numbers, and you'll have figured out the format. You'll have your baseline data. It'll be infinitely easier. So you're doing a lot of work kind of upfront right now. But basically, once you have your baseline data going forward, you can ask yourself these kind of questions, right? So how did my followers or engagement or whatever change during the typical time period? Is it upward trend? Have I stagnated? You know, what do my top posts have in common with each other? You know, do they all seem to be that I posted them on Monday nights? Are they all videos? Did they all use the same hashtag that I didn't think made any difference, but just kind of threw it on at the end, you know, in case? You know, what business actions are most significant to me? So maybe it's getting more online sales or more donations to my organization, something like that, more workshop, you know, more workshop signups. And how can I get more of those? So this is what I want us to do. This leads us into something we're going to do. And this is why I wanted to do this over a 2-week session, because I thought it would be interesting. So I just want you to pick one thing you want to experiment on this week. And, you know, it could be, for example, okay, I'm going to post the same thing I did last week. You know, I'm going to post it at 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. on Monday. I'm going to take the same post. I'm going to post it at 2 different times. Now, I will say this on Facebook in particular, because Facebook's organic reach is really small. So the odds are that someone is going to see it is, so it shows organic posts to 2 to 3% of your audience. So if you have 100 people on your page, it's going to show it to 2 people. And based on how those 2 people react, it will decide to show it to more people or not. So you could post the same thing on Facebook twice, and the odds are that it's going to show it to the same 2 people or the same 2%. And the odds are that they're going to even remember are slim to none. It's just my opinion, just my personal opinion. So if you want to experiment with that on Facebook with timing, you want to post the same, right? The same message and all that, same image, 2 different times and see which one does better. Maybe you're like, okay, I've been trying to show this new product and no one's really clicking over to my website to go look at it. I can tell by looking at my website data. What if I made a short video and linked it to the product? Do more people click through the video? Will leaving 10 comments a day on Instagram get me more followers? So these are, and again, maybe none of these questions is interesting to you, but maybe you have a question looking at your data. And I don't know if people want to put it in the chat. If they're like kind of thinking about something, they're like, hey, I want this to happen more, or I want to get more out of this particular platform. And this is what I think I'm going to try. So feel free to put that in the chat if you want. And that's what we're going to do this coming week, right? You know, and if you want, we can figure that out together. I might just skip this as a group thing because that was a really long breakout session. So I was thinking about this as a breakout session, but now being here, I sort of changed my mind. You know, see if you can find some patterns to what is and isn't working and come up with an experiment. And like I said, obviously making a video is a little bit more of a time commitment than you posting something at 10 p.m. and 10 a.m., right? But whatever you decide to do, you're going to get some information from it. That's the idea. You know, and then how will you know it's working? So with my examples before, how will I know leaving 10 comments a day is working? I should be getting more followers. I should see my follower trajectory going up. Video product, you know, like I said, I should see more click-throughs to my website. And so hopefully you have analytics on your website. If you need some help finding that or setting that up, Google Analytics is a good free tool. It is limited and Google does have all your data, but the way I figure it is someone with a Gmail address, Google knows all my stuff anyway. So I don't know. Hi, Google, you're watching me anyway. And then, you know, obviously posting something at different times, you can look at your reach, right? You can look at the comments and other engagement. So you can look at reach and engagement at the 10 a.m. post and at the 10 p.m. post, and you can see which one's more. And you might say, oh, okay, it's 10 a.m. That's interesting. And then you might want to try it again, like a few weeks from, you know what I mean? To just confirm that it wasn't just that one crazy time. So I don't know, do people want to share like something that they want to test in this upcoming different type of post? Okay. Remember when we're running experiments, you want to only change one variable at a time because otherwise it gets confusing. It's like, what worked? Was it the fact that it was a video or was it, you know, the fact that it was, yeah. So in general, if you're doing a timing thing, I would post either the same kind of thing or a very similar thing at different times. But like, you know, stuff you don't think makes a big difference. So I took out some LinkedIn ads for a client. It was for a tutoring service. And they were kind of corporate. So I'd use stock photos. So I had a stock photo of a little boy and a stock photo of a little girl. The little girl got 3 times as many click-throughs. Would you think that that made any kind of difference in the ad whatsoever, whether the gender of the person was a little girl or a little boy? No. But did I test it and see that it did? Yes. So that's all that we're doing is we're just testing stuff. And over time, we're going to collect, you know, because, you know, it's only if someone's going to walk up to you at the grocery store and say that they really like the thing you posted on Pinterest. They're just going to click on it or not click on it and save it or not save it. All right, so I'm going to read what some of these things are. Yeah. Interesting. Someone's saying when you look at the feed that we were looking at together, Lynn, yeah, don't have a lot of engagement on most of their posts. It looks like they had one post about goldenrod that blew up a little, 170 shares. Yeah, they went viral on goldenrod. It happens. Post on and comment on Twitter consistently, 2 posts, 5 comments or retweets. Awesome, Lynn. Yeah. So like I said, just, you know, do it. And if you're looking for like a tool, like there's not necessarily a lot of tools that do this, but what I've been doing, just because I can't make myself use Instagram, is I've been doing, speaking of, and I'm not necessarily, So speaking of, remember my hot take on Gary Vee? Well, he does have this program and it's called $1.80. And the idea is you're supposed to leave your 2 cents on 90 Instagram posts a day. So 2 cents, 90 cents, it's $1.80 change, get it? I think that is a lot and I don't want to do that. But the free version of it lets you leave 10 comments a day. And so I am the kind of person who needs some kind of tracking. So if you guys are setting this and you're like, I'm going to do this for a little while, I've been making myself, there's my 10 posts a day, 10 posts a day. I didn't finish this one, but so I've been doing this for almost a month now. So that green line is my followers on Instagram. And the yellow is my comments. I don't do it on the weekends. I only do it 5 days a week. That's why it's like 5 and then nothing for 2 days and then 5 and then nothing for 2 days. So, or 10, I mean. So I leave 10 comments a day. And there might be a similar kind of thing for what you're trying to do. So if you, for example, are like, oh, I want to pin 10 things to Pinterest, there might be some Pinterest tools that will let you either schedule them or let you do that. So don't be afraid to use those kind of tools if you find that they will help you. So yeah, I said, if you absolutely have no idea what you want to do, if you're watching this and are like, I have no feelings about what I should be doing, just pick a social media platform and post twice as much as you usually do. So if you post once a week to Instagram, try posting twice next week, whatever. So if you're really stuck, like that's a good general one to do. Shoot for twice as much as you normally do. And once you get into a little system, it actually isn't that much work, but yeah. So I'm at the end of my things and I'm happy to answer questions, or I'm happy to look at, if people want to stick around after, to look at other people's stuff. But yeah, so next week, like I said, we'll be looking at some paid tools. We'll do the results of our experiment. So if you want to keep in your mind, I'd love it if 3 of you would volunteer to report out on your experiment. I'm not going to make anyone because this is supposed to be fun. This is an elective. This is not a required class. So if you can, you don't need to re-register for next week. Kelsey's going to send the link. She's going to send the replay and it'll be the same link as clicked on today. So, so yeah, so if you kind of keep in your mind that, you might present next week, that would be awesome. I'm not going to make anyone, but it'd be cool to hear from multiple people. And we'll talk about some paid tools and some other kind of more advanced stuff. But I hope today gave a good general overview of the kind of thing you can expect in social analytics. And does anybody have any questions for the group? All right. I don't know if I just, oh yeah, Ellen, you've got a question, go for it.
Okay, so a few years back, I remember hearing a lot about encouraging companies to do a blog, and then you promote the blog on social media and it drives people back. I haven't been seeing blogs on companies' websites as much. And my company, my small farm, doesn't currently have a blog, and I'm wondering if it's worth the energy and the time.
So I will say that, I started off as a blogger. That's kind of how I got to here. And I have probably a little over 1,500 blog posts on my site. It's just, I have a lot of blog entries on my site. But a lot of my traffic comes from blog posts I wrote years and years ago. So I will say that, so social media, if you look at, so they have all these graphs, and I'll see if I can find one while we're talking here, but of like, so I think Instagram is like 48 hours. So like you have this kind of peak and then it kind of goes back down in terms of like, it's really like when it's new, it's kind of exciting. And then, and some of them like YouTube has like, I think it's like almost 1 to 2 years of like, cause it's popular and then it kind of, is still getting views because it's a video and in that format. So I will say blogs are like videos and that they do have that kind of long tail of being able to be found and seen and discovered on Google in this way that I think a lot of social media posts not necessarily offer that. Do I think you need to blog daily or anything like that? And has that kind of gone on the wayside? I would say yes. What I've done, because I am a little bit lazy and I have other things to do like this for other people, is I do a live stream once a week, and then I post that live stream as a blog post. So I get something for YouTube, Instagram. I get something for all the platforms, and then I get to put it on my website. And then I have it so that every new blog gets automatically sent to my email list. So there's a way to kind of like, if you don't want to blog a lot, like you could sort of set up something like that. But I do think it's nice to have content on your website. Do I think it has to be, like I said, something that's like super up to date and something you do all the time? Not necessarily, but I think it is nice for traffic to your website to have something. Even if once a month you said, you know, what's been going on our social media channels. You could like be like, on Instagram, we shared this, whatever recipe for rhubarb, and it just went crazy. And then, you can embed the Instagram post, and then you could say, and on Facebook, we got to talking to people about how they could use their garlic scapes, and then you can embed that post, because all these platforms let you embed the posts as well. So that's a way too, that without you having to like create new content, you would just be kind of curating stuff you've already put out there once a month or something. And you could set that to go like I said, if you had an email list, you could set it that when it published, it would just also go to your email list too. Then you're not having to set up a whole marketing email. It's like a way to touch with your customer, a little touch point with your customers without necessarily creating a bunch of extra work for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I still think blogging has its place, but I don't think it's necessarily like it's not the huge thing it used to be when I was doing it back in 2006 and 2007, when I was blogging daily and I was like but I will say, like, some of these blogs still get a lot of traffic. I wrote a blog post like 7 years ago about renaming files and like why it's important to rename your files. That gets like 50 hits a month. It's like it's not the dumbest thing I've ever written, but it's like it's not anything I thought was going to last 8 years. But I think there's still a place for blogs, and I do think companies have shifted away from it to spend time on social media. But I think there is something to be said about having content on your website. So.
And we are actually having a blogging event tomorrow, I believe.
Let's look at that.
At like noon, maybe also. Blogging at 12 o'clock tomorrow. I just put the link in the chat, and you can register for that online also. So we have several marketing specialists that we're working with, including Nicole. And so this is Corey Zimmer.
Oh, nice. She's great.
From the WanderWeb. And so she's doing kind of like a 2-part series that is being broadcasted as independent events. But so the first one is going to be blogging for your small business. And then in September, right? In September, she's doing email marketing, who, what, and why. And so they're going to kind of build off of each other so that you can repurpose the blog for that. But I'm sure she'll go over how to utilize your blog posts for social media. And I bet she has like some statistics about like how often the average blog is going out these days. So that's definitely something you're all invited to. We encourage you to come to all of our webinars. And I'll just real quick, just remind everybody that you will get a follow-up email from me probably tomorrow that will include the recording for today and all of the links and all that jazz. And like Nicole said, next week's link is the exact same link. So if for some reason you can't find the email next week, you can go back to the ones I sent out this morning and still access everything. But you do not need to register again. That's true. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me just share. It's kind of an ugly graphic, but it's similar to like what seems to be out there. So I just looked at lifespan of different kinds of posts. So this is like kind of how long they seem like the most relevant. So there's Twitter, there's Facebook, Instagram, and this might be, I have to see how old this article is, but yeah, 2018. Okay, that's not as relevant as I wanted it to be. But point being, there is like, if you look up the lifespan of something and then obviously sort for like within the last year. Oh, there we go. Lifespan of social media posts in 2021. Perfect. So point being is that sometimes these like YouTube and blog posts tend to be kind of a longer tail of influence. So whatever, I guess it's going to take its time to not load. So. All right. So if anybody wants to stick around after, thanks so much for coming. See you next week. And if anyone wants to stick around after and look at their stats, I'm happy to take a look and sort of help set up the report or just help you figure out what's going on back there. So have a good one. Take care.